What's going on? CoinTrader's looking at GRT, the graph token. The graph GRT on that ticker have had an extremely nice uptrend. We did start off back in the fall down around 7 cents. So to actually see this run up to about 50 cents, it's just been extremely huge. And right now, this pullback is exactly what we want to see. Very normal and healthy. Obviously, right now, we have been looking at about a week or so of these small body daily candles under the 50-period EMA. But a lot of crypto's just been extremely minimal and pretty boring right now as we do wait for kind of the rest of the space to play out, especially as we are waiting less than 2 weeks for the Bitcoin halving. Did have a nice candle close, but right now starting to see a little bit of rejection from this bearish flip on the 26 and the 12-period EMA. So 12-period EMA now flipping below this 26-period EMA. So still in a fairly bullish formation. If we can hold 50-period EMA now, especially after this nice daily bullish candle broke above this big 50-period resistance point, then we could be very well on our way to see a little bit more upside. But if we actually looked left on this chart, you can see that we are going to be looking at a pretty big level of closing resistance now that has been closing support here on this flip. So coming in pretty much right at the 36.37 level. So that is going to be an extremely big resistance point to tackle on top of these now bearish flipped 12 and 26 period EMAs. So still potential for a little bit more pullback here if we don't break above these levels. But otherwise, this chart on the longer term still looking extremely good. And that's why I actually want to flip over into the weekly, because this weekly chart is very good looking, just like I talked about. And I do want to talk about first, just kind of the setup right now. We were looking at between the 50 period and the 26 and 12 period, excuse me, that were kind of riding up right along each other until we got this nice bullish flip for GRT and then finally broke bullish on top of 50. So you can see big point of resistance, and especially if we actually look at a price level that did have nice closing resistance, looking at a level of about 16.96. If we actually go on top of that, big point of resistance coming in for the weekly close at 18.71, but all of that was met with a big upper weekly resistance point at 22.67. So once we actually got through this zone in between these price level resistances, as well as breaking above the 50, we actually saw an extremely nice pullback, decreasing bearish volume over 5 weeks, which is exactly what we want to see, as we do have a very nice backtest while we are looking to flip bullish these weekly exponential moving averages, and then now off to the races with extremely nice follow through as we do get a widening spread on these weekly exponential moving averages. So everything's looking extremely good right now on the longer term, despite the fact that even if we do end up pulling back a little bit more, which isn't necessarily out of the question. So for example, on a pullback, if we actually look on a Fibonacci from the low to the current trend high right now, kicking off the 50 on the way down. So looking at a very nice bounce off the 50, which right now we can't see if it does hold, would actually start to align with this 12-period EMA. If we do start to get a little bit more of a pullback, so for example, if we close a nice little small bullish candle, start to see another little sell-off, we could still see a potential pullback to 61.8 at about 28.24 cents, which would still align with this 26-period EMA and still be in a very normal level for a pullback to see continuation to the upside. Now, right now, the thing that I actually really like about the current weekly setup for GRT, the graph token right now, is that after we've had all this nice bullish volume come in, we're actually starting to see week over week decreasing bearish volume on this pullback. And the thing that's nice about it too is that it's actually sitting in this weekly bullish candle. So 4 weekly bearish candles that followed it with the decreasing sell pressure fitting inside one bullish weekly candle is an extremely good sign for continuation and finding this level of support, confirming that this is a normal continuation flag pattern. Doing some hopium speculative moonboy predictions based on a flag pattern though, and a target. If we actually do look at this in terms of a flag, if we do see a nice little breakout, we would be looking upside to 67.61. Obviously extremely speculative, not really any plans for that right now. And if we actually take a logarithmic Fibonacci extension, we can see that from the low to the high, all the way down now to the swing low, does put us at the 100 level, pretty much right around that point at about 66.5. So that is our speculative Moonboy prediction if we do get the next stage, and also a little bit more continuation volume on a breakout. But like we said, still could end up looking at a little bit longer term consolidation. But I think with the Bitcoin coming here, the halving coming in the next less than 2 weeks, actually, we're probably going to get a little bit more action out of the altcoins, especially after setting up for about 1 to 2 months in most cases. So I think that most altcoins have been sitting pretty to actually make their next move here pretty soon, especially after having a lot of direction just kind of relying on this Bitcoin ETF and halving coming up here. So if we actually want to pull up some technicals, RSI, stochastic RSI, we were extremely overbought here on the move, but like we said, a very nice move to the upside with follow through, so nothing jumps out just there, but we did know that we did have to have a pretty substantial pullback to actually cool down this weekly RSI. So topping out at 89.24, did get our cross, bearish cross on the stochastic RSI, so we're already partway through that, so we are about the 50 line right now. And so if we do continue over the next couple of weeks, we could actually see minimal trading while we do start to actually see the next leg start off. So couple weeks of probably minimal action trading would allow us to cool off, probably cooling down this weekly RSI as well. But because we are actually now below the 70 line, normal trading levels could actually see the next leg to the upside and probably a run up to test that trend high. But that's, like we said, very much a fire kind of thing. Would need to see a lot of increased bullish volume, and we're not necessarily sure what would create that narrative right now for a GRT. Do want to flip over here into the 2-day right now and talk about a couple more bearish cases, because right now on this 2-day chart, we're not necessarily looking that good for bullish continuation. So we had 3 strong candles, 3 candles right now that aren't really doing that well. Current candle's about a day in, so still have about this current day left before we actually see a close on it, but starting to see decreasing a bullish volume all the way around on this pullback as well. So despite seeing a decrease in selling pressure, also seeing a decrease in buy pressure, which is fine and normal, but ultimately we do need to change the trend in order to confirm a nice long upside growth for the weekly. But like we mentioned, are going to see very big resistance now because we actually had big support for the close on this little bounce. So still going to expect resistance coming in at about 36.57, which does align kind of with this downtrend right now. So still looking at some downside supports right now, still in confirmation and intact for this longer term flag pattern, but we could still have farther pullback here on this flag pattern to go, kind of like we said, down to the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement here. Now, I guess one of the things that we don't typically talk about too much is kind of the overall fundamentals of this and kind of the use case for it. And I think that especially since we're looking at a lot more multi-chain use cases coming in for crypto, a kind of API and indexing like we see out of GRT in the graph is going to be an extremely huge benefit. But we know that right now we're still looking at this being an Ethereum token. So hopefully we can get a little bit more cross-chain capability and a little bit more growth out of a project like GRT, because we are starting to see some type of similar use cases out of other projects. And yeah, so we know that this is going to be a huge, extremely strong narrative, and that's kind of why we are relying on GRT. But of course, like every project, still a little bit of improvement to go. But would definitely love to know your thoughts about the fundamentals and kind of the impact and use cases coming up for this cycle for the GRT use case, and whether or not we'll actually see it start to be a little bit more in demand as we do look at cross-chain and other types of capabilities. Otherwise, though, that actually is going to go ahead and wrap it up for GRT, the graph token. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. Also, if you do have any issues, comments, questions, disagreements, all that stuff, drop me a note down in the comments sections below. Do love getting back to each and every one of you. Don't forget to drop me a follow here over on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. @coin_trades is the handle over there. Do appreciate all the continuous love and support, though. It does mean so much. Stay safe, take care, everyone, and I'll catch you back in the next video.